Welcome to today's Exploring Nature with Children video. I'm Samantha from Twinkle and I'm really excited to be doing Weather Week with you this week as we follow the Exploring Nature with Children curriculum. We've got some big discussion questions, some things to hunt for when you're out on your walk, and some really nice craft activities to do at home. As you can see, I'm already out exploring in nature and I've found some lichen already. However, that was last week. As you can see, I'm still hunting for lichen though. So if you do want to know about lichen, check out my previous video. And Rachel has done some amazing exploring nature with children videos, as well as one on the Weather Week in the summer. So do check those out as well for some extra ideas. But for now, let's get exploring weather. Whether you're out and about on a walk or just at home looking out the window, weather is something we often talk about, especially in the United Kingdom, where the weather changes a lot because it's an island. However, wherever in the world you are watching this video, the weather might be something you talk about. But what is weather? That is our first big discussion question. What makes up the weather? What would you include for your definition of weather? Did night and day included in weather? How would you measure weather? What different things can you measure about the weather? That's a really big discussion question and so many different parts. So what do you think weather is? Now you've decided what weather actually means, our second big discussion question is how weather affects you. Right now, the sun is affecting where I'm putting my camera to film because it's actually quite sunny now. And it also has affected what clothes I'm wearing. So the weather might affect what clothes you wear. The weather can affect what activities you're doing, such as do you decide to go to football or do you play in the park? Or is the weather affecting how you're feeling? So it is a big discussion question. How does weather affect you? Now you've thought about yourself, let's think about other people. People not just maybe in the country where you live, but all around the world. You might like to do some research as to what the weather is like around the world and think about how it can affect them, especially if they're having more extreme weathers, such as things like their crops might fail, or there might be flooding, or it might be so hot they can't actually go outside. So think, for our last discussion question, how can weather affect other people? I've got some glorious weather around me, so I hope you get some nice weather too if you go out on your walk. And I've got a 3, 2, 1 challenge for you of things to find while you're out on your walk. So can you find 3 things to do with the weather? Can you spot them? I'll give you a clue. There's probably some in the sky. In fact, there might even be 2. Secondly, can you find 2 objects that have been affected by the weather? So 2 objects that have been affected by the weather. So here's my first object I found that's been affected by the weather. As you can see, it looks like this tree has actually blown down from possibly a big storm or some strong winds because it was a really, really tall tree. So that's one way objects around us can be affected by the weather. We'll go and see if we can find any more. So here's my second object that's been affected by the weather. I found something really big and now I found something really small. And there's actually spiders' webs here that are all covered in dew, and the leaves on the grass here have all been covered in dew. And that's all thanks to the weather when it's been getting cold at night. So that's a really cool, interesting object to find, and it shows how little things and big things can both be affected by the weather. I'd love to know what objects you have found that have been affected by the weather. And then the last thing you need to look for, number 1, just 1, measure 1 thing to do with the weather. There are some really cool activities on the Twinkle website, all to do with weather stations. So you might like to look some of those up because you could measure the weather that way. I'm going to measure how blue the sky is using my cyanometer. And if you'd like to make one of those, I'm going to show you next with our craft activities, as well as some other great ideas. This is the equipment you will need to make your own cyanmeter to measure the blue of the sky. Start by drawing a large circle and then a smaller circle within your large circle. Don't forget to add a handle as well. Cut out the outside of your shape around the large circle on the handle and then cut out the inner circle so you end up with something that looks a bit like a magnifying glass. Next, you want to get lots of coloured bits of blue paper. We're using the colour Thesaurus sheets from Twinkl, however you might want to use magazine cuttings or colour paper using pens and paints. Then, once you've got your coloured pieces of paper, sort them into order from lightest to darkest, as you can see here, going all the way round through the different shades. Once you've decided you've got the pattern correct, you can then glue these onto your device. Work your way around from lightest to darkest. These ones are already labelled with the names of the colours. However, you might like to write your own names or number them so you know which shade blue the sky is. Then all you simply need to do is hold up to the sky and work out what colour blue it is. Our next weathercraft activity for you is making some weather bunting, so you can record the daily weather. All you need to do is draw some different shapes of weather on cardboard and then cut these out. You can then colour or paint these in to make some lovely weather pictures. Once you've done this, you can write labels on the different types of weather and place on some string to make some fun bunting. We use pegs for today, tomorrow and yesterday to compare our weather. You could have pegs for different countries around the world to compare the weather to where you are. Our final craft activity is making a pinwheel. You can use this to look at wind speed. Using a Twinkl sheet, simply colour it in and cut it out. Then thread the floor blades carefully onto a pin and stick onto a wooden dowel. You can take this outside to see how fast or slow the weather is. Thanks for joining us for an amazing weather week with Exploring Nature with Children. Don't forget to check out our other videos and share what you've been up to in our Twinkl Home Educators Facebook group. See you next time for even more Exploring Nature fun.